What is going on, people? It's Matt from Liquid Loans, and in this video I catch up with Cristian, the CEO of Liquid Loans, and we talk about the state of the markets, Liquid Loans news, and what is on the horizon. So, with no further ado, let's go. Hey Cristian, great to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to jump on. I know you're a busy guy, so I do appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problems, Matt. Look, and I should point out, I'm really happy with all of the streams and the content that you're producing. So hopefully I don't stuff it up.
No, you'll be fine. We'll keep this short and sweet. I just wanted to get you on to catch up over a few topics, and I've been busy as well, talking to a lot of community members. Obviously, it's been a busy week for the Liquid Loans protocol. I'm talking to a lot of people about their strategies and what they're going to do when the protocol goes live. And I was wondering what your take are on some of these strategies that the community members have come up with.
Yeah, look, I actually, I think it's a really good thing. And what I'm noticing is it's evolving, which I'm really happy about. Now, let me give you some context. So I think most people, they started looking at the haunted strategy. Now, when I first saw that, I thought, great, people are starting to think about how they're going to use the protocol to maximize their positions. And the particular one that I liked about haunted is he was focusing largely on the potential price appreciation for Pulse. And so I thought, this is really good. But I also felt, you know what, it misses the mark in terms of there's so many other opportunities here for people to take advantage of the protocol itself. And so, and I had a chat with Haunted about it, and he agreed. He said, look, I can see that this is going to evolve, and we're starting to see a lot more of that. So, you know, seeing HEXiCAT strategy, I think, you know, some of the other ones that I've seen, I particularly like the HEXmaxi strategy. I know that there's a lot in the community that love their HEX, and they're going to go for the HEXmaxi strategy. And obviously the HEXiCAT strategy was a little bit different because it starts to focus on the loan token itself, which was really good. And I've seen a couple of others. I think JJ's strategy is another. The two that caught my eye and caught my attention more than the others, not for any other reason other than that I kind of like the direction this is taking. And that is HEXiCAT strategy. And also I've seen the Squirrel strategy. Now, why are they different? And I think they're different because they're also looking at market conditions, right? So when we think about investing in general, or how do you actually improve your positions overall, you have to think about the different market conditions. And so the reason I particularly like these strategies is because they're starting to take that into consideration. And whilst we're not advocating one strategy over another, I think what I like about them is the fact that, hey, if I take, for example, HEXiCAT strategy, he focuses on stability. If it's a bit of a mixed market, and potentially if it's a very strong market, what's the position you're going to take? And so for me, the stability one, or if let's just say we call it out, it's a bear market. My feeling is that you should be looking at the stability pool, because you're locking up your USDL and actually effectively getting returns in that way.
Safer,
Whereas the other, at the other end of the spectrum, if you've got a very strong market, I would argue that I would see that the loan token can do extremely well in that environment because of the high yields and because of the scarcity of the loan token in the long run. I can actually see people gravitating to that. Now, again, I'm not advocating one strategy over another, but I think it's really important that people start to think about broader market conditions. What are the market conditions, and how can I maximize my yields or my returns by shifting my strategy or moving to a particular strategy? So there's different, and I'm sure you've seen Jex has produced a really good video where it actually explains the various loops, right? So the various returns that you can get.
Yeah, amazing.
I think it's really important. Yeah, I think it's important that people understand those loops and then reflect on some of the community strategies and say, okay, where's this going to benefit me the best? And at the same time, don't be wedded to one strategy over another. Consider the market conditions. If you do that, you're going to potentially maximize your returns.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's definitely not a one size fits all, and you need to see what's going on with the broader market, what's going on with your life. So the fact that all these different strategies are coming out, it's great that people can see what they could use at that certain time. And that actually brings me on to my next question. What do you think about the broader market at the moment? Because it's been quite volatile recently.
Look, certainly I'm not an expert. There's plenty of people out there that actually profess to be experts on the market. One thing I am aware of is that, generally speaking, most of us, and I've been caught out by this a little bit too, is that we don't always look at the macro conditions. So what do I mean by that? Well, we just tend to focus primarily on the asset classes that we have within the broader crypto market. And I actually think that's a bit of a mistake. And the reason it's a mistake is because you need to understand the relationship that the broader market has on the crypto market. And whilst no one can actually absolutely predict these things, what we tend to see, or what we've seen recently at least, is the Fed Reserve had made some announcements around quantitative easing. It's obviously then spooked the markets. And when I say the markets, I mean the broader stock market. We've seen a correction there. I think the correction was around the 10% mark. I could be wrong there, but it was around that sort of figure. And typically what happens there, and the narrative that's used, is you tend to take a risk-off approach, which basically means you're not going to be investing too much in more riskier assets. And guess what? We all know that crypto is quite risky. And as a consequence of that correction in the stock market, we then saw, I think it was closer to between 20 to 30% adjustment in the price of Bitcoin, for example. So you tend to see that. So if you know these things and you know that there's a relationship between them, where am I heading with this? I think it's really important to know that, so you can adjust your strategies accordingly, right? So hopefully you've got some lead indicator, and you're just not constantly focused on what's happening to the price of Bitcoin as the only determinant of what you can do for your own portfolio.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everything is connected, and the stock market normally is a precursor when it takes a dip, as we've seen with the stock market dip. And now, we've had quite a big correction with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and pretty much the whole market. I mean, as we've seen this dip, and we know that PulseChain isn't far, it's around the corner really from being launched. What do you think is going to happen when Pulse launches?
Look, that's a really good question, and there's a lot of speculation around this. I think a lot of people would say, look at what happens with other blockchains that have launched, and typically there's a bit of a run up, there's a bit of a push on the price, and then usually there's also a significant correction. I actually think people are expecting that with Pulse. I'm just not so sure. And the reason I'm saying this is because the big difference when Pulse launches is it's launching fully loaded with a whole bunch of ERC20s that have been copied over. Now, whether we like it or not, there's going to be a lot of people that will just come over that become aware of this, and all they want to do is just cash out. But in the process of doing that, they're effectively selling their ERC20s and pushing the price of Pulse up. So my view on what could happen there is, I actually feel that my suspicion is that there will be a correction, but it's not going to be, it'll be very short-lived. And I don't think we're going to see a massive correction. I think it'll be a correction. And potentially we could see Pulse up until the right from day one. Like we could absolutely see continued price appreciation for quite some time. And I think, all credit to Richard, but I think that loading up the chain with all of those tokens, knowing full well that people will come over, those that are aware, because they're getting money for nothing. So it's free money, and we're kind of hoping that they stay. And as you know, we've reached out to the Liquidity community to basically say to them, listen, your tokens are over here, but don't sell out and leave. Potentially come over and use our protocol when it's available. So we want you to stay in. We want you to stay in the community. We don't want you to just come over, take your profits and leave. So we're doing what we can to reach out to those sort of communities to hopefully get them to stay within PulseChain.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, because a lot of the time we expect mass volatility at the beginning of the launch of a contract or a protocol, a new blockchain. And when a lot of people expect something to happen, sometimes the opposite happens. And I think that could be very interesting to see. Obviously, it's all speculation. We don't know. But I think there's good argument that could happen for the Pulse price, but we'll see. Obviously, when Pulse comes out, Liquid Loans isn't far behind. And this week, we've had a big week because we've just launched the referral program. Can you give us an update on the referral program and how it's going?
Yeah. Look, what I do know is that we're seeing a hell of a lot of referral links being promoted out there, and obviously some of the the YouTubers are starting to promote their links. We're seeing, obviously, in the back end, we can see the connections coming through, and we're thrilled. I mean, the amount of people who are actually getting involved, and particularly, I'd urge anyone that has a YouTube following, if you are interested in liquid loans, you should be considering becoming a referrer, because I think it will actually help their position, but obviously their community as well. Because one of the things that we were quite deliberate about with the referral program, as you know, is we want both sides of the equations to win here. So it's not just always about the referrer getting all the gains. We wanted the referees to actually pick up and achieve an outcome. So I'm seeing that we're basically seeing the numbers are starting to increase, and we're seeing more and more YouTubers starting to promote their referral codes.
That's amazing. I mean, I've been talking about this all week with people, but I want to reiterate it, that this referral program is different. It really is a win-win, because like you said, most referral programs, it's the referrer who benefits. In this program, the referrer and the referee both get a bonus percentage increase. So if you do want more info on that, do head over to liquidloans.io/refer. All of the info is there, laid out step by step. There's a video, and it's very simple. It's about getting a link and sharing it with the world. This is very different, like I said, to normal referral programs, and we want to benefit the community. We want to give everyone a win-win who participates. The more that we can help the community and bring adoption to PulseChain as well, I think it's a massive win for all around.
Obviously, I'm not involved in the referral program in a traditional sense, but I've said to my kids, listen, if you've got friends that are within crypto, because I think it's a challenge to onboard a newbie directly into something like liquid loans. We'd love to see it, and I think if all credit to people that go through that process. But I actually think there's a really broader community outside of the Pulse and Hex community that can benefit from this. So if there are people that are actually into crypto, I think it's a no-brainer for me to actually introduce those people to the Pulse community itself. So,
well, absolutely. I mean, it's bringing adoption to Pulse. I mean, sacrificing for a really interesting political cause, which is an algorithmic, no admin keys, no governance, immutable, real DeFi stablecoin, and then also earn rewards in the loan token, which again is another whole ecosystem in itself. So it really is a win-win all around. And like you said, it's a no-brainer for anyone who's in crypto already. Obviously, the referral program is a precursor to the sacrifice phase. And there's lots of questions like when the sacrifice phase is going to go live.
Everyone asks when? Soon, be ready.
Yeah. So sorry to ask you again, but how will the sacrifice work, and any changes that we should be aware of?
Yeah. So I think most people are aware that the sacrifice phase, by and large, is people are familiar with the approach that Richard has taken with Pulse, and certainly now with PulseX. Ours is not that too much different in that regard, that there will be a flatline period at the beginning, and then that'll extend. So the total sacrifice period, we're looking at 30 days. So there'll be 10 days where it'll be the initial 10 days, and then there's obviously the discounting that occurs for the following 20 days. So the whole process will be 30 days. Yep. One thing that's a little bit different. So when we first started, we thought, how do we actually make this a little bit different and try and sort of look at some principles that I think the whole community are quite aware of. And the one that stuck out for me, and certainly for the rest of the team, was delayed gratification. And we thought, well, how can we introduce that mechanic into the sacrifice phase? And so what we thought was, okay, and I think, ultimately what we were trying to achieve was twofold. One was reward people that would like to delay any potential gratification. And remember, the whole sacrifice phase, the precursor is there should be no expectation of anything. And so from that point of view, those principles still apply. But on the off chance that a benevolent party decides to align with that particular political view, what's the benefit of someone delaying gratification? And so initially we started with a 2x multiplier if you delayed for 2 years. We soon realized, well, hang on, why should those people be disadvantaged compared to, say, the biggest wallet receiving potentially a 2.5x multiplier in the traditional mechanic? And we thought, okay, well, we need to make that a little bit more attractive for people. So what we've done is we've actually aligned the two. So the delayed gratification mechanic will be a 2.5x for anyone that delays for 2 years. Now, how does that actually work in principle? Well, every month you delay after launch, there's a 6% increase that applies. And so in aggregation over a period of time, up until month 24, you're going to get 6%. In month 24, it's a little bit different. It goes from 6% to 12%. But ultimately, what that means is that if someone delays for that period of time, there's a 2.5x multiplier waiting for them, which is a better outcome, and it helps to align with the traditional 2.5x that we have for the front end of the actual sacrifice phase. The reason we're doing it, one, because we do want to delay that, we do want to reward people that delay gratification. The other is, and I think this is an obvious reason, is that we didn't want everyone coming out on day one, right? So I think it's important that people come out at different times. And I think one of the things that people need to consider when they're delaying is we're expecting the protocol to perform really well. So the yields that you're going to get from the staking pool within liquid loans using the loan token will be quite good, and you're going to see some significant returns there. So a reasonable position people would be taking is to say, well, if I come out on day one and I lock up my loan tokens and I'm actually getting a really healthy return, how does that compare with delaying gratification? So I think, and look, we don't know the answer to that, but what we can say is with delaying your gratification, you're actually guaranteed a multiplier outcome. Whereas with the staking pool, I think you're going to get a really good return, but we just can't guarantee it. So people need to make those decisions. And I think, look, the end result would be if you're staking for that period of time, it kind of achieves the same outcome in that we're hoping that people don't dump the loan token. And I think the other thing, and people come to realize this, is that why wouldn't you dump the loan token? Well, unlike a lot of bolt-on tokens with most other protocols of this type, if you stake them, the rewards are in those tokens. So you're kind of forced to sell them. So how do you get a return from those unless you sell those tokens? Well, as we know, the one key difference for us, and I really like this mechanic, is that if you stake your loan, you don't get paid in loan tokens. You're actually getting paid in USDL and Pulse.
Amazing.
So potentially you would sell those, but we'd argue that you just, through those feedback loops, come back into the protocol. But the difference is loan tokens will not be provided through the staking pool. It's USDL and Pulse that is. Yep. And so selling your loan token, the high yield return token, I think you'd be nuts to do it. I think you should be hanging on to those things. And so potentially people that do use the staking pool will realize that very quickly and will, so what's that going to do to price, right? So if people aren't selling loan token, it's going to push the price of loan token up. So it's going to be an interesting time once we're ready to launch. So really,
I think the loan token is very, very interesting. A lot of people are sleeping on it. They're just thinking about the borrowing and lending part of liquid loans, and the loan token is the fee generating token. So all the fees in the system are paid to the staking pool. So like you said, having that delayed gratification, whether you stake for 2 years on your own or you choose to lock up, obviously it's a known multiplier versus an unknown APY. Sure. But as we've seen in crypto, getting into good projects early and holding long term is where real life-changing wealth is made. So do think carefully and obviously think about what's best for you. I think that's really good advice. Well, this has been really good, Cristian. I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on and have a quick chat with me.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Matt. And I think, again, I really appreciate all the content that you're pulling for us. And I do want to reach out and thank the community members that have gone to the effort to create those various strategies. And I'm hopeful that our conversation today is sort of lighting the fire for further analysis. So I know that, people are talking about things like Monte Carlo analysis, which is, look, I think that's an interesting path to take. But there will be others that will actually enhance some of the strategies that have been put out there. And I think I'm really happy to see that, because it just shows the level of sophistication that people are taking and realizing that, hey, this is a really good protocol that's going to help increase our collective wealth. So how can we maximize the returns out of that, which is really good.
Yeah.
So Matt, thanks again.
Thanks again, Cristian. So I hope you enjoyed that video and chat with Cristian. If you're not a subscriber yet to the Liquid Loans YouTube channel, do hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you're notified every time we drop new videos and content on the channel. You can also share this video with someone who you think it may benefit, and maybe if you're feeling very kind, you can also tap the like button and drop a comment below for the algo. It does help us out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.